Now, if you remember, this book started in the summertime, and now we're starting to get towards fall. And this was something I'd never thought about before. When fall comes, the sun is up for a shorter period of time. So here we go back to the book. The nights became longer and the dawns gray and chilly. The sunsets were red and vivid, and the days, though beautiful, shortened rapidly. As the nights lengthened, the hours of stag lengthened, and with them the mental and physical fatigue of the company. So they have to stay up, rotate through watches at night. You just don't get to sleep the whole time. So if it's dark for longer, you got to stay awake longer at night. So it's starting to wear on the company itself. Back to the book. There is one incident, small when remembered by itself in a life of such incidents, but to me, very vivid. In my platoon, there was a young lad aged 18 named Biddle. He was slight of build, fair, and looked a mere child. He had a pleasant personality and was liked by everyone. He had joined the company at Le Mencel Milan after we had crossed the Seine at Vernon in August. One morning, there was a crack and a short interval of silence. Soon the shout went out. "Stretcher bearers!" echoed through the orchard. I ran towards the commotion and saw Biddle writhing in agony on the ground. At first he looked unhurt, but as I tore open his tunic, I saw a clear wound through his abdomen coming out by his spine. He soon became numb and was no longer in pain, but was very frightened and shivered. We dragged him back behind the house and applied field dressings to his stomach and his back in case the wound started to bleed. His young life slowly ebbing from his body, our stretcher bearers quietly and reverently carried him away. The scene is now too poignant to remember without shedding a tear. After Biddle had been evacuated, the morale of the platoon dropped. He had been hit while standing in his slit trench by a sniper at least 300 yards away. And it's interesting, and I didn't go into this part, but there's a part earlier in the book where he basically disparages somewhat the use of snipers. And he talks about how they usually don't gain you anything tactically. But it's interesting what it does to the morale of a platoon, isn't it? And he doesn't complete. He explains that there's usage, and believe me, there's probably no bigger believer in the use of snipers in the world than me. But it's interesting. He basically, you can tell he's a guy with this extremely high moral character, and he kind of gets the feeling when he explains it that he didn't feel comfortable with sniping because people aren't expecting it. There's not a battle happening. He felt like it was a cheap shot.
Interesting.
But it's interesting the effect that it actually has on his platoon.